Inspire and be inspired.
Dr. Dre!
Dr. D.R.E.
I read books, child psychology books.
Ultimate form of revenge for me is success.
Because I wanted to be a good mother.
I always call myself a fucking professional winner.
Little whispers, look at her. She's not going to be nothing, and her child's not going to be nothing either.
I'm going to keep being successful and make you look like shit.
Stop scrolling and hear this. A single line buried on page 17 of a decade-old record contract could erase the richest fortune in hip-hop history tonight. I'm talking about Dr. Dre, the kid who built beats on a busted turntable in Compton and flipped that sound into a multi-billion-dollar brand that lives inside half the headphones on planet Earth. But lawyers now argue that one forgotten clause still gives a bankrupt label leverage over Dre's crown jewel masters. If a Los Angeles judge agrees, Dre's empire could be cracked open, royalties rerouted, and future tech deals frozen in their tracks. Keep your eyes right here. We'll trace Dre's journey from swap meet DJ to Apple's billion-dollar boardroom, unpack the clause that threatens everything, and reveal the split-second, gunpoint decision that saved Dre's life and set up his biggest payday. You'll hear the precise language of that clause. We'll roll exclusive audio from a former death row accountant. We'll show you newly filed court documents that forecast Dre's next chess move. Welcome to our deep dive special report, Doctor in the Crossfire, How Beats, Billionaires, and One Fine Print Trap Could Rewrite Hip-Hop History. I'm your correspondent, and we are live. Romel Young entered the world on February 18th, 1965, inside a South Central Los Angeles hospital where sirens drowned out lullabies. In those days, broken bottles dotted the sidewalks and curfews keep kids indoors after dusk. Dre's mother, Verna Griffin, was 16, juggling night shifts at 2 factories. By the time Dre turned 9, he had already carried one brother's casket. 2 more siblings would follow before he hit drinking age. When gunfire echoed through their 1-bedroom apartment, Dre's refuge was a tiny AM radio that fuzzed under his pillow. Friday afternoons, he scoured Latin swap meets for used vinyl, and once traded a stack of baseball cards for a scratched Technics turntable. He didn't own a second deck, so he practiced beat matching by letting one record wind down while he tapped the tempo on a shoebox drum. At 16, Dre sneaked into the Eve After Dark nightclub, told the DJ he could keep the floor moving, and miraculously got 5 minutes on the mixer. Those 5 minutes pulsed so hard that club owner Alonzo Williams gave him a weekend slot. Dre adopted the name Dr. J after basketball legend Julius Erving, then shortened it to Dr. Dre when friends started calling him Dre anyway. Every dime he earned bought cables, needles, or blank cassette tapes. He and classmate Antoine Carabee, soon-to-be DJ Yella, recorded sets in a garage that rattled neighbors' windows, then sold the tapes for $3 apiece. One cassette landed with Eric Wright, a street-savvy entrepreneur eager to trade dealing for vinyl. With that tape, Wright became Eazy-E, and the architecture for a new rap collective was set. By 1986, Dre, Yella, Eazy-E, Ice Cube, and MC Ren consolidated under the banner NWA, Niggas with Attitudes. Their second album, Straight Outta Compton, did what no label exec predicted. It forced suburban America to confront inner-city policing. The record sprinted to gold, earned an FBI warning letter, and turned Dre into the sonic scientist behind a cultural riot. But royalty checks arrived suspiciously light. Ice Cube demanded audits, found shortfalls, and quit with fury. His exit planted the first seeds of Dre's own mistrust, seeds that would sprout into the most notorious contract battle in rap. Enter Suge Knight, 6'3", 265 pounds, former UNLV defensive end and self-styled crisis fixer. Knight courted Dre with promises of transparent books and ruthless negotiation tactics. In March 1991, Knight confronted Eazy-E inside a Hollywood studio lobby. Accounts vary, but the consensus is that Knight's associates laid a packet of boilerplate release forms on Eazy's lap while quietly displaying, if not brandishing, metal pipes. Eazy signed, Dre walked, and Ruthless Records lost its marquee producer with a single signature. Knight christened the new venture Death Row Records, and Dre surrendered all future NWA royalties in exchange for theoretical creative freedom. Within months, Dre released The Chronic, a G-Funk Bible that blended Parliament bass lines with chronicling street tales. The album sold 3 million copies. The single Nothing But a G Thang topped charts from Atlanta to Auckland, but Death Row's hallways teemed with bodyguards wielding baseball bats and lawsuits stacked like milk crates. Dre himself assaulted TV host Dee Barnes during a dispute. He pleaded no contest, paid a fine, and carried probation on every press junket thereafter. Each scandal clipped potential endorsements and hardened corporate gatekeepers against hip-hop deals. When Knight recruited Tupac Shakur in 1995, East Coast versus West Coast animosity turned combustible. On September 7, 1996, Tupac was shot in Las Vegas. He died 6 days later. Dre surveyed the body count, the lawsuits, and the whispered threats, then concluded the price of death row's success included his own life expectancy. In a move industry insiders called career suicide, Dre abandoned the label, again forfeiting catalog points, and walked into the California night with little more than unreleased instrumentals and his producer's instinct. Dre named his Phoenix company Aftermath Entertainment, dropped a compilation in late 1996, and watched it miss the top 20. Trade papers printed obituaries titled Dr. Dre Flatlines. Meanwhile, Dre built beats for concept supergroup The Firm, Nas, AZ, Foxy Brown, Nature, but personality clashes tanked the project. Revenues sank, doubts swelled. Dre considered retreating to behind-the-boards ghost production. Then Interscope chairman Jimmy Iovine slid an unmarked cassette across Dre's mixing console. The voice was angry, brilliant, and white. Marshall Mathers, Eminem, rapped triple time about poverty, pain, and comic book violence. Dre signed him in 1997, ignoring chatter that hip-hop couldn't sell a white Detroit rapper in baggy sweats. The Slim Shady LP debuted February 1999 at number 2 on Billboard, moving 283,000 units week 1. Grammy voters handed it Best Rap Album. Critics credited Dre's bass-loaded landscapes. Skeptics called it luck, until Dre released his own 2001 in November the same year. Singles Still DRE and Forgot About Dre re-cemented him as an architect, not an accident. A second comeback was complete. Next, Dre greenlit a mixtape by a Queens rapper who survived 9 bullets. Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, launched Get Rich or Die Tryin' in 2003 with 872,000 first-week sales. Dre's ear for opportunity became folklore. Yet studio sessions revealed a new frustration. Cheap headphones skewed Dre's low-end frequencies. He vented to Iovine, who proposed building a premium set tuned exactly to Dre's personal EQ curve. Beats by Dre landed in Apple stores in 2008 and on every NBA sideline by 2009. Overnight, headphones became status jewelry. High schoolers saved allowance cash not for sneakers, but for those red-cabled cans. By May 2014, tech rumors swirled that Apple planned to swallow Beats Electronics for $3.2 billion. TMZ leaked Dre's champagne-fueled victory dance before the ink dried, forcing Apple's notoriously secretive board to finalize terms under the paparazzi's glare. But buried deep in Apple's acquisition checklist was a morality clause flagging Dre's 1991 assault. Dre issued a rare public apology. 25 years ago, I was a young man drinking too much with no structure. I'm sorry to the women I hurt. Apple signed. Dre's personal cut vaulted him into hip-hop's billion-dollar stratosphere, and Beats became a cornerstone of Apple's wearables division. January 5, 2021. Dre felt a thunderbolt pain behind his temples and collapsed in his Pacific Palisades studio. Cedars-Sinai neurologists diagnosed a brain aneurysm. Fans woke to "Pray for Dre" trending worldwide. Surgeons sealed the hemorrhage. Dre survived. While he recuperated, wife Nicole Young filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and requested $1 million monthly in support. Legal wrangling ended with a lump sum settlement around $100 million. Enormous, yet only a fraction of Dre's diversified assets, which by then included equity in streaming, film scoring, and wellness startups. Meanwhile, Dre funneled charity money to both headline and silent causes. He pledged all royalties from his 2015 album Compton to build a performing arts complex at Compton High School. In partnership with Iovine, he donated $70 million to the University of Southern California to launch an academy mixing design, tech, and entrepreneurship. After his aneurysm, he began quietly funding brain injury research. Reporters later uncovered 6-figure donations to Los Angeles women's shelters, checks written under shell foundations to avoid publicity. Critics asked if philanthropy erased past violence. Supporters pointed to tangible programs saving real lives. The debate intensified, but Dre kept writing checks. Tonight's tension circles one clause hiding inside Dre's 1992 exit agreement with Ruthless Records. The language, standard at the time, granted Ruthless participating interest in any derivative sound recording created by Dre during a 10-year window after departure. Attorneys argued for years over what constitutes derivative, but newly unsealed bankruptcy filings from Suge Knight's estate suggest former death row accountants believe that clause still wraps around dozens of unreleased tracks Dre produced between 1992 and 2002. Even more explosive, a leaked memo claims the catalog includes early chronic stem files, now invaluable for Dolby Atmos remasters. If a court rules those songs derivative, a share of their streaming revenue would flow not to Dre, but to the reorganized shell of Ruthless, now controlled by a consortium of creditors hungry for payout. That prospective reroute could dilute cash flow across Dre's estate, destabilize collateral used in Beats R&D loans, and possibly trigger an Apple renegotiation on royalty distribution rates. Legal analysts estimate the stake at $70 million to $110 million. Serious money, even for a near billionaire. Sources close to Dre's team claim confidence. They point out Dre has already reacquired 58 disputed master tapes from Knight's bankruptcy trustee, announced April 7, 2025. Those masters, valued at $30 million, contain never-released G-Funk experiments slated for streaming rollout next year. Dre's lawyers argue that reacquisition nullifies Ruthless's claim because ownership returned directly to the author. Opposing counsel counters that ownership and participating interest are separate beasts. The judge set an evidentiary hearing for June 12th. Flashback to March 1994. Dre was stuck in gridlock on the 101 freeway when two men on motorcycles boxed in his black Chevrolet Blazer. According to sealed LAPD incident logs we obtained this week, one rider displayed a handgun and signaled Dre to pull to the shoulder. Instead, he floored the Blazer, rammed the rear wheel of the lead bike, and spun through traffic onto the Vermont Avenue off-ramp, narrowly missing an oil tanker. The motorcyclists fled. Detectives suspected an extortion crew tied to a disputed club performance fee. No arrests were made. That split-second decision, to accelerate rather than comply, became Dre's personal parable on momentum. Keep moving or get boxed in. He has repeated versions of the story in closed-door motivational talks with new artists, and insiders say it fueled his risk calculus during the Apple negotiations. If you hesitate, someone names your price, Dre reportedly told Eminem during a 2015 studio session. Hit the gas and you name it. On February 13th, 2022, Dre headlined Super Bowl LVI halftime alongside Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, and surprise cameo 50 Cent. Nielsen clocked 120 million viewers, the most for a halftime show in 5 years. The performance snagged 3 Emmys, firsts for a halftime production, and boosted Dre's catalog streams by 185% that week. Behind the glamour sat months of forensic audio prep. Dre retrofitted Inglewood's SoFi Stadium with subwoofer arrays engineered to replicate his signature low end without liquefying broadcast microphones. Since then, Dre has lived mostly inside Studio B at Record One in Sherman Oaks, refining Atmos mixes for early 2000s classics. He mentors Compton protégés, demands they rewrite verses until syllables land on grid like snare hits, and still spends entire afternoons sculpting a single hi-hat frequency. Anderson .Paak calls it sound boot camp. Kendrick Lamar labels Dre the strictest relaxed dude alive. Meanwhile, Beats' engineers filed a February 2025 patent for bone conduction earbuds built for marathon runners, listing Dre as co-inventor. Analysts say the tech could push Beats into medical-grade audio, integrating biometric data into Apple Health. Should that happen, Dre's wealth would shift even further from record sales to intellectual property royalties, a model few artists have mastered. We crunched the verified stats. Streams, 20.4 billion plays across major platforms. Album sales, 25.8 million RIAA-certified units in the United States. Awards, 7 Grammys, 3 Emmys, 1 Oscar nomination. Producer, straight outta Compton. Philanthropy, $100 million in pledged or dispersed funds to education, arts, and health. Beats market share, 40% of U.S. premium headphone segment, per Canalys Q4 2024. Those stats cement Dre as both a cultural architect and industrial brand. Yet every line triggers debate. Do past assaults taint current triumphs? Does extreme perfectionism choke artistic spontaneity? Drop your stance in the live chat respectfully. Pawn Shop Mic. Dre's first microphone cost $80 at a Compton pawn shop. He keeps it in a biometric glass case. DIY mixer. At 17, he failed electronics class, but later soldered a custom 12-channel mixer to record faster than rivals. HTC almost deal. Beats nearly sold to HTC in 2011. The phone maker pulled out within a year, letting Dre buy back the stake and flip it to Apple for triple. Analog detox. Dre presses vinyl test cuts of every project, even digital-only singles, to ensure groove dynamics translate across formats. Trademark watch, Dre just registered the pharmacy for CBD drinks and functional juices. Proof the pivot train never parks. And there it is. From broken streetlights to billion-dollar boardrooms, Dr. Dre's story plays out like a high-gain symphony, loud, risky, and obsessively tuned. The next movement hinges on a judge's reading of one dusty contract clause. If ruthless creditors win, tens of millions in streaming royalties could be redirected overnight. If Dre prevails, he fortifies an empire that already links music, technology, philanthropy, and now possible wellness drinks. So we ask you, which era of Dre resonates most with your life soundtrack? The raw rebellion of NWA, the laid-back G-funk of The Chronic, the polished punch of 2001, or the tech-savvy beats era? Vote by typing the album title in chat. We'll display results in tomorrow's follow-up. And consider this: does excellence excuse early violence, or can genuine contrition rewrite a legacy? Your comments fuel the debate and guide where we investigate next. If this report brought you knowledge, hit that like button so more viewers catch the signal. Subscribe and ring the bell because we'll stream live from the courthouse June 12th when the clause showdown begins. Share this video with anyone still waiting on detox. They need the update. I'm your correspondent, keeping the rhythm of the culture in clear view. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and keep dreaming louder than the noise around you. Good night.